I don't know if I like if it was just if I had a bad teacher or if I just wasn't my thing. But I would sort of like memorize the music by ear and then like look at the
Oh.
sheet music and like pretend to be reading it while I just like played, you know. Thrilled to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's Lora-Faye?
Yeah.
All right. Cool, and I did see you're Brooklyn based. Are you in Brooklyn right now?
Currently, I'm out of state. It's my mom's 60th birthday celebration.
Welcome.
So
Happy
we
birthday to mom. That's awesome.
thanks. She's really throwing a party. She's like, I think post-pandemic just wants to see all her friends and boogie, which I can get behind that.
That's rad. That's really cool. So you said upstate New York?
Currently in Vermont,
Oh,
actually.
Vermont. Okay. Were you born
Yeah.
and raised in Vermont?
Born and raised in New York City.
Wow. Okay. So mom
Yeah.
just moved to Vermont, or you're just in Vermont to have a party.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Whereabouts in New York did you grow up?
Born in Manhattan, raised in Park Slope, Brooklyn.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was that like growing up in the city?
You know, I have not much to compare it to,
Okay.
but I loved it. Park Slope is different now than it was when I was a kid in the 90s. It's like changed as is the case with every neighborhood in New York City ever for the whole history of New York City. But, it's a lot more like yoga moms and very fancy strollers now, which
Oh,
is,
interesting.
no shade, it's a vibe.
Okay. Okay. It wasn't like that before, though.
It wasn't like that in the 90s. I mean, like gentrification is always doing its thing,
Oh,
but
of course.
it's especially um, ostentatious these days.
Sure. No, definitely. I would imagine I'm from San Diego, and we saw that quite a bit in some of the
Yeah.
towns that were like the more artsy, cool areas. Then
My
oh, this is
wife
a
grew
cool
up
area.
near Encinitas, which seems like one of
Oh,
those towns.
oh
Like
yeah, oh,
just
that one went way up in value because your
yeah.
beachfront properties. I mean, even South San Diego, there was some cool areas that were more like in the artsy world, and the big corporations saw that, and the big breweries saw that, and they all kind of moved in, and
Yeah.
now you have to like pay to park, which isn't when I lived there, like no one was there, so like there's like valet parking. It just blows my mind, but
Yeah, it's really disorienting.
yeah, I'm sure that's similar for you, especially in New York. I would imagine the property value, because I understand how high it is. It's like, oh, well, let's take this area over.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's funny and it's like always the same kind of well, not always, but it's often the same sort of evolution, right? It's like first the like weird artsy folks move in and then like those sort of like vaguely upwardly mobile like lesbians move in and then everyone's like ooh and then all the like NGO people move in and then everything's fucked.
Oh
Sorry, excuse
yeah.
me. I don't know if I can
No,
curse
you can
on here.
cuss. You can cuss.
Okay. But really, I think my people, the lesbians, are like the harbingers of evil coming to your neighborhood. So look
Oh,
out for us.
really,
We're the
really.
beginning of the gentrification, and everyth's just screwed from there,
Oh
really.
my goodness. Now I know who to blame.
Yeah, always blame the lesbians.
Okay. I don't know if I'd do that, but well, that's fascinating so does your family still have the house you grew up in there, or
Yep, yeah. My mom ended up in a place. We moved a little bit around the neighborhood, but she ended up in a place that she's still in when I was I think 12 or something, like
okay.
right before 9/11. It's like how I gauge that,
Oh my
which is a
gosh.
dark way of gauging a move. But yeah,
Sure.
I think it was 2000, 2001. So
Wow. And how close is that to you? I mean, I'm not familiar with like New York as far as neighborhoods
oh,
and
like
how
downtown
close.
Manhattan.
Yeah.
Um, it's like right across the water, so like very highly visible, but definitely not affected in a
Direct. Like,
direct. Like
yeah.
the yeah. No,
Like you weren't
no,
evacuated right away. I mean,
no,
maybe you were. I mean, I don't
no, we
know.
were not evacuated. No, not at all.
But wow. I mean, so you said you were 12 and that happened?
I guess I was, yeah, maybe 11 or 12. Yeah.
That must have been traumatic. I can't even imagine. I remember where I was. I mean, it's one of those things where you like won't ever forget where you were. It was like I got to school and people were talking about it. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, and we're being attacked, and like people freaked, and like every class I was in, I think 11th, 10th grade, and like every class you'd go to, it was like TV was on. Like no one cared about school. It was just like,
Yeah.
what is happening? Like, and I
Yeah,
can't.
yeah.
And we were, clear across the whole country.
Totally. Yeah. No, I think it's really like, especially for our generation, like a real marker of like sort of changing tides in this country
Oh
and
yeah.
politics and everything, for sure. It's interesting, like seeing the kids who are like sort of coming up on the TikToks and
Oh
like
yeah.
sort of doing awesome cool stuff with our culture, and like realizing that they were born after that happened just kind of like blows my mind, that like our our culture can be so deeply affected by that, and then all of a sudden like not at all. I don't
Well,
know.
yeah,
They
it
have their
was.
own traumas, you know.
No, oh, sure, sure. But it's interesting to, because I have a 13-year-old son, and like to see him like in school learning about, like he asked me, for one of his classes, like that question, like where, do you remember what in 9/11? And like it's weird that they're studying that in a
Yeah.
sense that like it's so bizarre to me. It just, I feel old, I guess is my point.
Yeah, I think that's my point too.
Yeah. Like you're learning about this? I was in high school when this happened. Like what?
Yeah, it's wild that it's like history now, you know.
Sure. I mean, it
Yeah,
is. It's like
it is.
how we learn about Pearl Harbor. I mean, it's like that was even more, I mean, direct. It's in that.
Absolutely.
Wow. Okay. So you're 12 and that all happened. Let's get on a positive note here. When did you get into music?
I started playing. I took like piano lessons as a little kid and just like couldn't learn how to read the music. I don't know if I like, if it was just if I had a bad teacher or if I just wasn't my thing. But I would sort of like memorize the music by ear and then like look at the sheet music and like pretend to be reading it while I just like played,
What?
for
But
release or whatever.
that's so funny. I talked to somebody, I can't remember exactly who it was, but they were able to fake it like up through high school with the same teacher.
Ooh.
And then they kind of caught on that this person wasn't reading the notes. So they put the wrong sheet music in front of them. And then they're like playing it along. And it was like, I knew you did not know this.
Wow. Yeah, I fortunately like quit lessons before I could get found out. But
Before.
yeah, and then I did some like drums. I played a little bit of drums, which I was also like kind of mediocre at, and then found guitar in high school. My friend showed me like a G, C, and D chord so we could play Puff the Magic Dragon together, and I was like, "This is it. Sign me up. This is my life
Oh,
now."
wow. What an interesting song to start with.
Right? I don't know.
Because C, G, and D, you can play a lot of songs. And
It's
Puff the
true.
Magic Dragon is kind of a random one.
We were hippies. I don't know.
I love it. Okay, so you learned the guitar. When did you start writing music?
The second I learned those three chords, I
Oh,
think, was when
wow.
I really started writing. I was like, I could do so many things with these three chords, as you just said, and
Yeah.
it kind of took off from there, and realized that was what I wanted to be doing.
Really? So from then on, it was that was kind of the site, was to be a
It was the
musician.
thing I wanted to do, like with all of my time. It was
Okay.
after college, I decided like, okay, I'm gonna give this a go. Very very naive decision.
Well, it worked out. I mean,
Yeah, it's my life. So
sure. Wow. Did you go to college for music or no?
no, I actually studied art history and like American study, and contemporary American art was my thing. Um, so
Just
everything
did
like
you want? Yeah. What were you? Did you want to work at a gallery or what
yeah,
was
I was
your?
like maybe I'll work in a museum, maybe I'll be a professor, and then I did those 4 years in college and was like, ooh, I was extremely frustrated by what I perceived to be sort of elitist barriers in the art world,
Mhm.
and especially at like museums and galleries in New York City. Um, and so I was like, you know what? I don't want to deal with this pretension. I just want to make sad folk songs instead.
Were
And
you
that was
writing?
what I did. Like after that, I was like writing folk music for a while, really
And,
like acoustic guitar, banjo kind of stuff.
In college at all, or
Yeah, in
like
college.
okay? Did you
Yeah.
ever play out like were you in a band prior to Arthur Moon happening?
Yeah, I had a couple little projects with various friends that would like played around in the city in the summers a little bit, and we would do like, college house parties or whatever. But
That's
after
probably a good way
college,
to get your name out there. I've heard a lot of people doing that, like playing college parties, because it's
oh
just like
yeah,
already people already there having fun. So it's like, oh, now I have this fan base, or at least a crowd of people to play to. You're not going to a bar and trying to herd your friends in there, and maybe there's three patrons hanging out.
totally.
Like at least you have,
Yeah,
kind of an audience,
yeah. There's
right?
plenty of time to play depressing shows like that, like after college for sure.
But while you're
uh,
there, soak it up, I guess.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was really fun. It was like a really great way to start figuring out what performing felt like. I had been doing it a little bit in high school too, but not in that same kind of way where I was really trying to entertain. In high
Hmm.
school it was a little bit more like buttoned up um, and and nervous as one is when they're 16 or whatever.
Sure. What were
Um,
your first shows? Were they like at venue type things, or were you doing like parties also in high school?
in high school, like, talent shows kind of
Okay.
stuff. Yeah. I think like the first time I played a song I had written myself was at a high school talent show.
Wow. I always find that to be like, I personally would think that would be the most terrifying show to ever play.
Yeah,
Like if you got in front of, because if you're playing at a bar, even if there was 50 people there, you probably don't know many of those people. But you're getting
totally.
on stage and you're the center focus to your entire peer group, right? I mean, if you screw up, then every person in your whole high school is going to hold that to you.
Right, to a group of like really mean, insecure 16-year-olds who are just like
Right.
waiting for an excuse to make fun of someone. Yeah.
Exactly. Like I find that's like I would assume. I mean, I don't know. I would think that those are probably the most terrifying shows ever.
Yeah, I think I was very honestly, I don't remember it, which means I was probably so nervous that I like blacked out. I
Like,
remember like getting up on stage and then I remember afterwards like talking to people, which is often how I feel about shows. You get up on stage and you just sort of lose yourself.
sure.
Yeah.
But I mean, you did like the Tiny Desk concert. I would think that like that. I mean, Tiny Desk is huge. I mean, let's be honest. It's like one of the biggest things to do. But to do like play in front of all your peers, I would just think that would be so terrifying.
I actually was thinking about performing in high school at the Tiny Desk concert because like the room is super bright. It's the middle of the day. There are like people right there. You can see their faces. You can see every look on their faces. Like they're all sober. Like
Yeah.
it's way more scary than like, getting up on a it's I always find that small groups of people in a well-lit room make me way more nervous than like a big crowd in a dark
Mhm.
venue, just because that you can see people, you can see their reactions, you can sort of imagine the different ways in which they are sort of noticing your flaws or judging
Right. They're
you or
they're being
whatever.
more they're probably paying a lot more attention just sitting there thinking like, okay, let me watch her chord
Totally.
change. And
Totally.
is
And when
she
it's
hitting it?
dark, you can like project. You're like, oh, everyone's out there just dancing. It's
Right.
great. They love it. Whereas, yeah.
Oh
I
my
think a lot of
gosh.
people say that about Tiny Desk, though, is that it's pretty
Terrifying.
intense.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. And well, you know that you're gonna have a lot of eyes on you, even outside of the fact that you're shooting this thing in front of is from what I understand, it's just kind of their staff, right?
Yeah,
Hanging
it's just
out.
like The Office. Yeah.
Yeah. And then but obviously it has such a big fan base and people gravitate to that no matter who it is. They're like, "Oh, I'm gonna watch it. It's a Tiny Desk concert. I'm gonna watch it." So going out of it, like hundreds of thousands of people are gonna see you.
Yeah. 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 It was terrifying. It was absolutely terrifying.
Oh my gosh. Well, that I'm assuming that happened a bit later in life, but I'm curious to know like how what how'd you get into like to the Arthur Moon phase of your life, and prior to that, like what was the bands and what was the little successes there?
Yeah. After college, as I said, I started playing music, trying to sort of figure out how to make a career of it. And I was just like performing as Lora-Faye,
Hmm.
writing a lot of like acoustic music, sort of like it was still my sensibility. So it was like really not super traditional, but the instrumentation and the sort of inspirations were very folk leaning. And I did like a songwriting contest a few years into that period, and won. It was like, there was like a program called Mountain Stage for a while. They were like affiliated with that, so I ended up like doing that, which sort of was my.
I won. No big deal. Like,
that was my first like taste of like, okay, maybe this could work. And then of course it like. Yeah. It was validating, but it also made me feel like, like competitive music is stupid. Like the whole idea of like it being a competition, it just like completely, for me anyway, like defeats the purpose of what it is, which is like subjective work that people have subjective experiences of, and it's extremely hard to judge, what's better than something else. But it was a cool
art, obviously,
it was a cool vote of confidence. And then I ended up like starting a rock band on the side where I was like switching back and forth between playing like really terrible loud drums and like big muff electric guitar with a friend of mine. We would like run back and forth between the instruments on stage.
Oh, so you'd play drums also?
Yeah, not very well, but yeah.
Still.
Yeah, and then so that gave me, and that gave me a taste for electric guitar, which sent me down a really different path. And I started doing a lot more like sort of rock, alt rock, listening to Radiohead kind of stuff. And then, like Radiohead, ended up realizing that there was interesting relationships between sort of traditional electric instrumentation, like electric guitar, and like electronic music. And that was sort of when I started switching over into sort of thinking about like, okay, I think this project, it needs a different name. And it was right around then that Arthur Moon came to be.
Because you started adding electronic elements to what you were doing?
Yeah, I just started like changing the way I was thinking about performance and production. I, like for years it had just been sort of like, this is the song, and I play it the same way on stage as I do when I go to record it in the studio, as I do when I'm like practicing it at home, And I started to get really interested and excited by like, okay, but what happens when I experiment with the tools that I have at my disposal in a computer or in the recording studio, or things that maybe don't necessarily look as interesting to watch on stage, but can be so like vast and interesting in terms of how they sound. And that just felt like something bigger than me. It felt like a bigger endeavor, and so I kind of wanted to like honor that through the name.
Sure.
Yeah.
And do you start finding people to kind of join you? Because at that point you were a solo artist?
At that point I had a band. I had, because I was doing like experimental rock stuff. So I had a drummer and a lead guitarist and keys player and bassist. And some of those folks are actually still in the Arthur Moon band, which is very cool. My bassist, Marty Fowler, who also like produces a lot of our music with me, and drummer Dave Palazola were in the band kind of before we made the switch to Arthur Moon, which is cool.
Okay.
Both of them were at the tiny desk. Marty's the one who was like rocking out super hard.
Okay. I love that tiny desk performance. And how quickly did that come along?
That was like right before pandemic. Actually.
It was. Okay.
Yeah, so pretty well, I don't know what time is anymore, but like recently in the scheme of the last year not really existing in time.
Yeah, totally. Well, the self-titled record, what came out in 2019?
2019, yeah. So we had released a little EP, I think in 2017 or 2018.
Okay.
Which was like the moment when I was sort of like transitioning the way I was thinking about stuff. And then the full length 2019.
So between 2017, 2018, and then the full length, did you tour, or was it mainly shows in New York?
Mostly shows in New York. Yeah, we didn't really start touring until like right before pandemic, actually.
Oh, wow.
Which is rough. We did like a tour in the fall, and then we were on tour actually when things shut down. We played a show in San Diego that night, and then the next morning it was like, oh, cool, the rest of the tour is canceled. And like,
really? So San Diego's the last date you played?
Yep. House of Blues, San Diego.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Were you guys were you the headlining band?
We were opening for a pop musician called Verite, which is great.
Okay.
Such a joy to open for. Yeah.
That's cool. Well, wow. So you're in San Diego, and then what? You guys get the call like, "Hey, this is kind of a thing."
It was like, we knew it was a thing. We were like pretty sure things might not work out, but we kept going. And then we were supposed to play in LA, I think, a day or two later, and then make our way up the West Coast. And like Washington was already shut down, and then that next morning it was like they announced that they were banning gatherings of more than 200, and we were playing much bigger venues than that. So
yeah, House of Blues in San Diego is like 1,000 or 900.
Yeah, I think we were in the smaller room there, but
the Voodoo Room, probably.
Yeah, that sounds
okay.
Right. Yeah.
That's cool though. Wow. Well, so on the shows prior to San Diego, before it started shutting down, did you see like less people showing up than the ticket sales were reflecting, or
the rooms were packed? It was interesting. Yeah, even that last night in San Diego, which I think was the one show where like it was sold out, but not everybody came. That the room was
still
full.
packed.
Yeah, and we were like, a week later, like it was just a duo. I was touring just with my drummer, and he and I were like, I cannot believe we were just standing in that room with like.
That's kind of a small room. I mean, they have like just a curtain that kind of covers the one wall, right? And then like the restaurant is on the other side.
Maybe that sounds right.
Yeah. I mean, if you play the Voodoo, the smaller room is it's still like it's like a hall, right? Like a big kind of hallway.
Yeah, it seems like a 400 cap, 500 kind of room. Yeah, it was. I mean, and everyone's like shaking hands, and
they're really close. There's no like barricade or anything in that room, right? You're like right up to the stage.
Yeah, I mean, and at the time we didn't even understand that it was like passed through the air. We were just like worried about which surfaces we touched.
Right.
Anyway.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. So the Tiny Desk show and the record release were prior to that tour.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. And how did the Tiny Desk show kind of come about?
I think when we first released our EP, someone had put it into Bob Boylan's hands, and he really liked one or two of the tunes and had sort of been like, yeah, keep me apprised. And so I think someone from our team sent him the record a month or two after it came out, and he really loved it and was like, he said the sweetest stuff, and like in all of his writing about the Tiny Desk and the work that he was sort of like very underrated album, like not enough people heard it or whatever. And I was like, thank you, Bob.
Yeah, that's huge. To have somebody like that kind of really talking so well and giving you press on the record.
Yeah,
I'm sure that's huge.
Yeah, he's such a lovely guy and has just such cool, eclectic, weird taste. So it was definitely a big honor to get his thumbs up.
Like blessing. Yeah, sure. Yeah. That's cool. And then you get on the road, you're touring, and then the world shuts down. And then what happens? You have to just figure out a way. Now you're in San Diego and you have to get all the way across the whole United States home.
We drove back across the country in 3 days. We just booked it.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I drove, my family and we just moved to Nashville from San Diego a few months ago. And that took us 5 days.
Whoa.
I can't imagine 3 days from there all the way to New York City. You went even further than us. Like you guys were booking it.
It was, I mean, and we were just so wired and freaked out by everything that we
just wanted to get home.
Wanted to just do it. Yeah, but it was rough. It took us a little while to recover for sure.
And then you're going into like the epicenter of it all, right?
Yeah.
I mean, San Diego wasn't horrible numbers yet, probably quite yet. And then you're going to New York where it was like.
Yeah, that was why we booked it. We were like worried because we didn't know what was going to happen. We were worried they were going to like shut down the city and like, not let people come in or out or something. And we were like, then what are we going to do? We're going to be like stuck in a hotel in like rural Pennsylvania. No, thank you.
Right.
So we just like
living in your van or whatever.
Booked it. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And then spent the past like 2 years, I guess, like writing a new album, which we're finishing up now. and like, you know, sort of daydreaming about, you know, how to
Playing
take,
live.
yeah, playing live, and like how the show might change, and how to sort of like take advantage of this time to sort of like figure out cool new ways of making music and performing. And yeah, it's kind of been the thing.
Yeah. So you've released a couple songs, right, from the new record that's coming out.
Yep.
Status Monster and Fishbones, and the most Chaos is the recent one. That's like the title of the record, right?
TBA. Yeah.
Oh, TBA. Sorry.
I think so. I don't know. I'm sort of like rethinking. I've had some big ideas about the music in the past few weeks, and I'm kind of rethinking
okay.
Rethinking what the releases are going to look like in a kind of exciting and unusual way. So
Okay.
Chaos is the name of something. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. I like that.
It's very vague and mysterious.
All good. Well, Status Monster, what about these songs? Like the Fishbones, were these songs that were all written and, you know, recorded and everything during you being stuck in New York City?
For the most part,
year and a half or whatever.
Yeah. Status Monster I started before the pandemic. And the rest of them, for the most part, yeah, happened during pandemic times. Chaos, I had like written sort of the bass line and the piano part with my bandmate Marty, like a year before, the summer before the pandemic. And then it had just like sat on my hard drive for a while, and I'd always like thought about it. And then one day, like during like the dark time, like I think it was like the February 2020 kind of, or 20, yeah, was it 2020? No.
Yeah.
Yeah, like right after things got really bad. Yeah.
Okay.
I opened it back up and started working on it, and like really love the sort of smoky, mysterious, anxious feeling of it, and ended up coming back to it and kind of changing my approach to it, which was fun.
I love the video you did, where it's like New York kind of on fire, and then you guys are like it looks like you're like at a prom or something, like dancing, and like it's a cool video. What was the concept behind that?
Thanks. I worked with this wonderful director named Garrett Weinholtz, and he and I were like chatting about different things. At first I was like, maybe it should be animated, and then we both sort of settled on this sort of David Lynch inspired idea.
Oh, total David Lynch.
Yeah, because when I was writing the song, I was like really imagining what it would feel like to be on stage playing it with the band, and I just had like such a clear vision of how that would feel. And so I was like, maybe we could like have the band on stage playing the song and then have something weird happen. And he was like, yes, let's do like a David Lynch dance where like, you know, you're just like being awkward in the audience.
Right. Yeah.
And so yeah, actually that's my wife at dancing with
me. Cool.
Yeah.
Really cool. And I did see that she's an artist as well, right?
She's a writer. Yeah.
Writer. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you guys ever collaborate at all or no?
I mean, not really. She writes nonfiction, which is like not really song lyric fodder, you know.
Could be. I mean,
yes, it's true. We have yet to sort of write music together, but you know, I trust her so much, and we are always giving each other feedback on various projects and stuff. So
very cool. Was like the burning of New York have anything to do with the fact that New York was basically shut down in a sense?
I was writing those lyrics, writing that song, like sort of finishing the lyrics up last summer, and just kind of like thinking about this, like I was sort of imagining this like sexy date through New York in that time, like in the middle of COVID, in the middle of the protests, like just sort of feeling like there was this utter chaos, but also like this enormous, exciting possibility that comes from that kind of like destruction and like optimistic destruction, if that makes sense, you know.
Sure.
So I was imagining the date, a sexy, weird, you know, gay date against that backdrop.
Okay. It works. It's a beautiful video.
Thanks.
And I love your art. Who does your artwork?
Olivia de Salve Villadou. is the designer for all of our artwork. She's incredible. She's
Oh
so
my gosh,
talented.
so cool. Like I love the artwork. Yeah, like this the orange with the cigarette butts in it and
She
like
called me after she did that and was like, I feel like my boyfriend and I had to smoke so many cigarettes. I feel really sick. I was like, I bet, dude. I'm so sorry.
oh, she smoked them all and then stuck them in the thing and what, like took a picture of it or something?
Yeah, basically.
Oh my gosh. That's hilarious. It's such a
Yeah.
rad concept.
Yeah, it's very cool. It's
And I
very,
love
very
the
cool.
like the fish bones where it's like a fish and then no bones, just like the bottom half is just black.
Yeah, it's like dipped in chocolate was the idea because there's a lyric in
Oh.
that tune about like cooking fishes with like Hershey's Kisses.
Oh, okay. Now I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, the artwork is cool. It's like, yeah, I love it. And I love like the color schemes. Like on your website, you have like the pink shirt. Like it's just so cool.
Thanks. Yeah, yeah. We're definitely like super inspired by her sort of like expertise in color in particular, and so I try to like follow her lead with all of the decisions we make around design, just because like she's so rad.
Yeah, and like even the most recent one. What is it? There's like, it's like hard boiled eggs, but what is it sitting on there? Like
Yeah, they're
coffee
hard boiled
grounds?
eggs on dirt.
Oh, it
Like
is dirt. Okay,
yeah, yeah,
that's so rad too. Is she gonna do your album cover?
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
can't wait to see that.
Me neither.
Awesome.
The next single art involves Jello, so
Really?
very multicolored Jello. Yeah.
You should. Are you guys releasing? I know you're doing like you have a couple like prints on your website, but are you doing one for each single?
I think so. Yeah, if we can
Okay,
make the finances work, that's the dream.
that'd be a cool like art scheme on your wall or something. You
Hell
know what I mean?
yeah.
Just like the art is so sick.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, I can't wait to see the record cover and this next singles art as well, and hear the song. I mean, the songs are amazing.
Thank you.
You said that you're going to change the title of the record, maybe. So you were slated for what, album in the fall? Is that still the plan, or is it all kind of up in there now?
There's definitely going to be a release in the fall. Yeah.
Okay.
It might, we're thinking about doing like a series of EPs.
Oh,
Just
rad.
because like the music kind of like fits together in these little groupings, and I kind of am excited about sort of accentuating that, if that makes sense. But they all fit together on one album. It's just about like whether or not they're coming out in little groups first.
Gotcha.
Um, very conceptual.
No, yeah, I love it. That's cool. That's really cool. And you have a show coming up in what, September?
September 29th, yeah, which is going to be a release show
Oh,
of
okay.
some sort or another. Yeah.
Okay.
At Elsewhere in Brooklyn.
Is that
I'm
going to
so
be your
excited.
first show, like in front of people?
Yeah, it's our first show back.
How is that going to be?
Terrifying. It's gonna be great. We were already like getting ready for it. We've been really shedding a lot. I have all kinds of like fun ideas about how to make the performance super exciting. We like a lot of sort of like pop leaning musicians have often like taken advantage of sort of being able to run things through a computer so that like not necessarily playing tracks, although sometimes we do that, but like we'll have a trigger on the drum set, and when the drummer hits the snare drum, it like opens up a gate on a sound that is coming from a different instrument on the stage. And that's the kind of thing that you like, can do with like pedals and outboard gear, but is a lot easier and cheaper to do with a computer. Anyway, I think we figured out a way to not have to have a computer on the stage, which is like
Rad.
the dream. I'm very excited about it.
That is super cool. Did you guys do any like live stream stuff during the pandemic or no?
A little bit, not a ton, just because the band wasn't together. And so like I can do fun solo stuff, but I really like it when like you can hear the full arrangements of the music as it was meant to be heard and performed. So I was kind of avoiding live streams to a certain extent. So yeah, it'll feel really good to be with the full band, and we're actually gonna have like a horn section and some other special guests for this first show back. So it's gonna be a party.
Yeah, and probably it might be some people's first show back, in a year and a half. Almost 2 years now.
Yeah, I feel like people are gonna go wild.
Yeah, people are gonna go nuts. That's
Yeah,
cool.
yeah, I
Well,
hope so.
thanks. Yeah, thank you so much for talking with me today, Lora-Faye. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. This has been a joy.
I do have one more question for you. Do you have any advice for aspiring artists?
Ooh. Um, oof. I guess I would say I was first tempted to give like industry advice, but like that's boring, and the truth is like that stuff changes all the time, and I barely understand it. So like I would say do TikTok, but I think my
Get
advice,
involved with TikTok.
right? I think my advice would be to not feel like your mistakes are in terms of like writing and performing and making noises, to not ignore your mistakes. I think for me anyway, in my experience, like the best stuff comes out of the moments when I comes out of accidents, you know. So like really, really allowing the places where you mess up to like teach you and um, help you like embrace your own idiosyncrasy.